એકદમ માઉન્ટેન પર જવાનું છે, એમાં એક ગુફા છે, ગુફામાં લિટરલી બાર પેલી રામ એ કે છે રામની સભા છે, અને બાર ખરેખર એ રીતના પથ્થરના ચેરો એવી રીતે છે, ઉપર ચિત્ર છે, બધું જ છે કે રામ અહીંયા આવીને રહ્યા હતા before he went to વનવાસમાં તે વખતે.
Let me answer the question. If you read a novel of Ramayana, I'm just making up a now, and now you want to, 1,000 years has passed. You read the novel. Now you want to create the environment of that novel, because novel has been repeated thousands of times. So you find a place that is being described and create a structure which is being described in the book. How do you know that it existed before? It never existed after.
Yeah. No, that is true. એટલે મને લાગે છે કે finally it boiled down to the શ્રદ્ધાનો વિષય થઈ ગયો.
આપણે દેવદાસની વાર્તા વાંચીએ છીએ, right? Devdas, we know Bankim Chandra wrote the novel in 1885 or somewhere in the time frame, and we know that was his mental imagination. There was no man named Devdas. Now just think about it. If Devdas becomes a major story, which is now, another 500 years go by, another 1,000 years go by, and this gets repeated again and again and again, will people say Devdas existed like what happened?
Yeah, no. That's true.
Right? You will say that. At least people will believe that there must have been a person named Devdas who did all these things, and he got drunk and died and blah, blah, blah. Saraswati Chandra. Saraswatiની વાર્તા સુરતની આસપાસમાં છે, right? South Gujaratમાં છે.
Yeah.
The physical locations are there.
Yeah.
Right? Kumud Sundari and Saraswati Chandra and all those guys were manufactured by Govardhan Ram Tripathi. If it goes on for many hundred years now, people will believe the Saraswati Chandra must have been there and this must have happened.
I think in the શ્રદ્ધાની વાત છે કે તમે માનો અને તમને પોતાને પીસફુલ લાગે, તમને લાગે કે સમથિંગ.
મને એવું લાગે છે કે કાલથી અવતાર આપણે જીવીએ છીએ ત્યાં સુધી જ આવી જવા દો, એટલે આપણને ખબર પડે કે ના ભાઈ છે કઈ છે.
કૃષ્ણ ભગવાનને આપણે માનીએ.
દિનેશભાઈ,
બોલો.
Rajanbhai, you take a staunch Advaiti, but then also during his prayers, he prays Ram or Krishna or Shiva. So if a staunch Advaiti also prays Krishna, there has to be some, because otherwise it's a conflict. The staunch Advaiti doesn't believe in Krishna or Ram or anybody, because but he still does the prayer. He starts his lecture with Vasudeva Sutam Devam.
Right. But you are right. Classical Advaita does not accept the concept of avatar, by the way.
Does not.
Classical Advaita doesn't accept concept of avatar, God coming as a avatar. That idea is not there in classical Advaita. It is a sort of understanding to make it palatable. But if you purely look at the theological concept of Advaita, Keval Advaita concept, avatar is inconsistent with the theory.
Exactly.
But that is what I was trying to say, is the concept of Advaita as the philosophy is not an easy concept to digest.
Precisely right.
But if it is told to people that there is Lord Krishna who is telling all this same thing, Advaita philosophy, then people say, okay, now I'm going to understand. Now I'm going to believe Advaita philosophy,
right?
Because Lord Krishna is saying that. If somebody is to say that you all people should be good like Ram, because then you have to first have a person with all those characters to say that you should be like this. This is the Paryata Purushottam.
Right. I think it's easier to relate to.
That is correct.
Easier to relate to and put your faith in something.
Precisely right.
And the story format is such that people's mind, the psychology of people, adapt to it quicker.
Yes.
If it is a story format.
Yes.
If somebody tells you some shlokas or some Sanskrit text, people are not going to take it so easily. But a Bhagavatam philosophy or philosophy of a story where there are characters like Krishna and Ram, people are going to say we believe in them.
Okay. Right, right.
Akash,
74
Akash
million
makes
people here believe in Trump. So just imagine.
Don't go there.
No, I mean, his lies have convinced. So who knows? I mean, it is possible.
no, but see,
એ કલ્કીનો જ અવતાર છે.
કલ્કીનો જ અવતાર છે.
કલ્કીનો અવતાર.
અવતાર જ છે આ તો.
એટલે ટ્રમ્પને રામ અને કૃષ્ણ કરતા બધા વધારે યાદ કરી રહ્યા છે અત્યારે.
Right, right, right.
So
So,
right.
Rajesh, all this આપણે જાત્રા કરવાનું કહીએ છે ને આ છે that's bogus. No, really. Like બધા કે છે કૈલાસ જવું જોઈએ ને માનસરોવર જવું જોઈએ કે આ મથુરામાં દર્શન કરવા. એટલે I'm so confused now.
Right. Now let me say this. I mean, now this is not what we were going to talk, but I think that Ramakrishna's idea of Vijnana Vedanta is much more easier to digest. Example, I'll give you something like this. Okay, but he says something like this. The one who has read about the milk is Ajnani. The one who has seen the milk and read about the milk is Jnani. But one who has tasted the milk and also read and seen the milk is a Vijnani. So it's combination of everything. Tasting in the bhakti sense, knowing intellectually, understanding what milk is, knowing, experiencing the milk is all combined together is a Vijnani. So one needs to be a Vijnani, where you combine all the aspects of knowledge as well as experience. That is how he will say.
That is right.
And I think that's so ultimately, if you ask intellectual question, my answer is no, probably I don't think so. But if you ask whether it's easier to relate, yes, I would say it is a lot easier to relate to these ideas. Because it is said by someone that you can relate to, not by some abstract concept. And if you can just think about it, since logic says, first of all, Gita wasn't said on the day war started. Gita was actually said on 11th day of the war.
Yeah.
So what Sanjay is saying, what happened in last 10 days, and then he's going forward. So think about it. And second, if you think in logical terms, how could anybody say all these things if there was a war, if there was a fight going on? In the middle of the fight, how can Krishna Bhagavan say all those things to him? Is it possible? No, answer is no, it's not possible. So it is a sort of extrapolation of abstract ideas that was created over centuries, and the way we put it in a way is that average person can relate. As a God comes and tells it to Arjuna, as if you and I are Arjuna, and God is an avatar that comes and tells all these ideas.
That's correct.
But see, Rajan Bhai, from a Keval Advaiti point of view, it is your inability to understand that 10 days ago things had happened, that in those days there might have been a technology that somebody could. Think about apna jema juo, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, if somebody would have told you a man can go on moon, you would have said, Besadi to Gandani hospital.
Right, right.
But today the man is on the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we can prove any of this anyway. I mean, I'm not arguing for one way or the other. And this is the way I see it.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, this is just a discussion.
I think you said it in one sentence. It's a question of Shraddha.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the. Yeah, go ahead.
ના તમને તો દિનેશભાઈ માનસરોવર જાત્રા લિસ્ટમાં લખી કાઢો.
મારી તબિયત નથી એટલી સારી, મારું કામ નહીં ભાઈ.
ના થશે તમારી
નહીં
તબિયત
પણ
સારી છે.
just on the Mansarovar Jatrano topic ઉપર, why we go to all these things, the question in my mind is, we go there to find peace.
Exactly right.
Is it agreeable, or do you go to really
I go to see the મને શંકર ભગવાન દેખાય છે કે નહીં. That is my.
Do you really go and see Shankar Bhagavan? I don't think so. We just go there to get some sort of a peace of mind.
RMK says somewhere in his lecture, in his book, he gives an analogy. The difference between religious pilgrimage versus average. Okay, if you dig the land long, any part of the land, you may eventually find the water. If you go to a location which is fertile, you will find the water pretty quickly. So the pilgrimage place is something like the place where it's more fertile and the water is pretty superficial. So why would you want to dig in a place where you may have to go 120 feet or few hundred feet down to find the water, where you can find the water in 5 feet away and under the earth? So idea is basically pilgrimage gives you a mental picture to find the water pretty quickly, instead of going through the struggle of digging, God knows how long.
Right.
That's the idea.
આપણે કે છે ને કે માનસરોવરમાં પછી મરણ થાય તો that is ભગવાનને ઘેર ગયા એટલે મોક્ષ મળ્યો એટલે બધી માન્યતાઓ એટલી બધી આમ પેલું તમને
હિન્દીમાં કહેવત છે ને, મન ચંગા તો કથરોટ મેં ગંગા. એના જેવું છે. તમારું જો મન ચોખ્ખું ને બધું તો અહીંયા જ માન સરોવર છે ને અહીંયા જ હિમાલય છે ને અહીંયા જ કૈલાસ, બધું અહીંયા જ છે. But if you don't have that, then you go to Manasarovar or wherever you want to go. It's not going to get you anything.
Right.
એટલે અમુક એવી સિરીઝ આપણે ખબર છે પેલા આપણે યલોસ્ટોન ગયા હતા કે ક્યાં? હા, યલોસ્ટોનમાં આપણે એક એવી જગ્યાએ ગયા હતા કે ત્યાં આગળ આમ કે આપણને એટલું બધું પીસફુલ લાગ્યું. ડેથ વેલીમાં પેલું ઉપર આપણે ગયા હતા એક જગ્યાએ એટલું બધું આમ કે તમને ક્વાયટ લાગ્યું કે તમે આવી જગ્યાએ આમ એટલું પીસફુલ માઇન્ડ થઈ ગયું હતું એમ. તો આઈ ગેસ કે સમ ઓફ ધ પ્લેસીસ માઇટ ફીલ યુ ધ વાઇબ્રેશન્સ.
Yeah, it gives you a peace at least. Yeah, mental peace.
Some kind of vibration might be. So, આ બધી જગ્યામાં vibration works?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mental thing, I mean, if you're mentally prepared to accept it, then it will happen to you. I mean, that's the way it is. It's an antenna.
I think if you are keep on skeptical all the time, then you won't get peace anywhere, I guess. Even though you go there.
Yeah.
There is another analogy that comes to my mind when I'm talking, RMK, the story goes something like this. Chameleon, કાચીડો હોય ને, એક જણ કહે છે કે કાચીડો યલો છે, બીજો કહે છે કાચીડો રેડ છે, ત્રીજો કહે છે કાચીડો ગ્રીન છે. એ બધું મીન ઝઘડા કરે છે. The guy who is sitting under the tree tells them, look, there is no need to fight because કાચીડો is everything. It's not this or that, this or that or that. It is this plus this plus this plus this. And it's also colorless at times. So it's a question of knowing partial reality at some point. If you know complete reality, you will say, okay, well, it could be any other color too. So I think it comes down to your inclination, what you believe in to be. આપણે એક તમે મિસ થયા મને લાગે અશોકભાઈ. I think you move one slide down.
Okay.
Okay, so this is another classification of Avatara is a Purusha Avatara. I mean, we talked about, remember Vasudeva, Sankarsan, I mean, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Again, Aniruddha and Pradyumna are also considered to be equivalent to Mana, mind. So the Char Namne mein kya hai na, Sanat and Sanat Kumara, similar, but this is another way of looking at it. 4 names are essentially Purusha Avatara. Guna Avatara is like Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, we already know about. Mana Avatara or Manav Avatara is like you and me. So basically Avatara in the form of every person that you can imagine. All right. Leela Avatara is those 10 avatars we are going to talk about, the way, this avatar concept. All right, let's move on. So this is the classical 10 avatars. And I think this, to me, is a classical form of evolution of Darwin.
Evolution.
This is a classical evolution that Darwin's in a way, amphibian, first came the aquatic life, then came amphibian life, then animal, then half animal, then Homo sapien, then Vaman avatar, the mixture of animal and man, and a Purna avatar comes to be ultimately Krishna and Ram. So that is a sort of, call it a sort of crude way of evolution idea. The very first one is fish, which is the aquatic form, because the water was the first, as far as we know, the universe creation happened. So you can consider that to be similar to evolution ideas. And I think that this makes sense to me, by the way. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, to consider them God is not necessarily what it means, but considered to be a sort of consciousness that has how manifested itself to be, starting with amoeba and going forward with evolution as complex, more and more complexity occurred in the life.
The philosophy of existence.
Precisely right. So this is similar to Darwin's ideas. All right, let's move on. And I have already told you about Vaman Avatar, you know, issue about Vaman Avatar, the small puts the foot on the tail, and a fellow Bali andar jato rahe chhe. We use Vaman Avatar as a positive thing. South India, Kerala sees it as a dago, as a sort of cheating Lord, I mean King Bali. So they don't consider Vaman to be good. So when, you know, because what happened according to them, that Kali was deceived by Vaman, because Kali was devotee of Lord Vishnu, and he said, well, since you cannot put your foot anywhere, put it on my head. So he took it on the face value, and what Vaman was doing was basically pushing him down in the below the earth. So South Kerala guys think is that Vishnu, Vaman Avatar came and deceived the king. And for them, king was the good one. So they don't consider Vaman to be a good avatar. Anyway, so but this is a variation of Hindu theology or Hindu mythology in different parts of India. Call it that way. So concept of avatar, I mean, this is like explanation. He touches down to the earth so that we can take off to the high heaven. He demotes himself so as to promote us. He descends for us to ascend. He steps down so we can step up. He stoops so we can clasp his hand. He enters our home to make us feel at our home. He manifests himself in the form like fish, tortoise, boar, half-lion, dwarf to appeal to our perception and help us to sublimate our lives. So idea is basically why avatar. Now, Jainism doesn't accept avatar concept. It is only ascent of divine. There is no descent of divine. Tirthankara is a human being that acquired the capability of similar to God, but not the God in the sense that they can pardon you and they can bestow the grace on you, etc. But they become enlightened. Yeah, Dinesh bhai.
So is Jesus and Muhammad are avatars?
Well, by our definition, yes. By the loose definition, if you ask a liberal Hindu, they will say yes. They are partial avatars. Or if you want to flatter them, you may say, okay, they are avatars too, just like Ram and Krishna. Like we said, Buddha is an avatar. So I mentioned earlier, that 10 avatar ma, Balram was one of them. So in order to accommodate the Buddha Bhagwan, they removed Balram. So Buddha became a Balram in place of Balram.
So, but there is no concept of avatar in either Christianity or Islam.
No, there is no concept. I think somewhere along the line I mentioned that too. And for them, there is only one avatar. There is Jesus Christ, and there is nobody else.
There is no reincarnation.
There is no reincarnation, but there is no repeated. I mean, the Krishna Bhagwan says, "Yada dharmasya glanir bhavati." So that idea doesn't exist. Because Jesus Christ came one time, and that's it. Microsoft created version for Office one time. There is no more modification, no Microsoft Office 10, Office 9, Office 11, whatever it is. You know, there is only one version.
No, but that one version could be the avatar, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, they don't use that as avatar, but we can use that as an avatar form of God. Hindus will accept that.
They don't use the word or the as avatar, but then they really believe in that.
Yeah, right. There is no concept of avatar because avatar means something that keeps on happening again and again.
Right.
But then it's only one-time event.
Avatar indicates that there is going to be multiple time, not just one.
That's correct.
Right, but okay, just for argument's sake, the other time has not come yet. You know, the second time, the time has not arrived yet for him to come back. They may be a lot more forgiving than the Hindus are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can argue endlessly. There is no answer to this question.
I was asking, what about Judaism?
Judaism doesn't have any concept of similar to Christ. But there is no, Moses is the one that, is the ultimate one. So the idea of avatar doesn't exist there.
Okay.
And Judaism is, in a way, is somewhat agnostic, similar to Buddhism. Not necessarily same, but a similar idea, basically. So for them, idea of somebody that will come down and bestow his grace and take our sins and all those things are not necessarily part of their conversation. All right, let's move on. So this is the one question you asked me. The next slide is that Christianity, framework of avatar by Christianity, one and only one concept, as only Son of God, degenerates into exclusory doctrine. So basically, because they claim is that there is only one individual that came as God. So basically, anybody else is not necessarily God. So that becomes like a dogma. So they will not accept anybody else to be equivalent, though we will accept him to be equivalent to our avatar. They will not accept vice versa. It's not possible because they say there is only one. Nobody else could be. So that is the problem. Yeah, there's only one time God sent the Son to change the world. So there is no question of anybody else now. That's the idea. Now, on the other hand, Hinduism, many sects of Hinduism claim to view their gurus as avatar, which can be confusing and dilutes the concept, which is also true. Because everybody claims Satyanand Swami our avatar, RM कहते कि हमारा avatar, हमारा सत्य साईं बाबा तो कि हमारा avatar.
Yeah, Chinmayananji, same thing.
Right. So basically now everybody claims that everybody that we know is an avatar. So one group says there is only one avatar or one person, Christ. And we say there are 24 and now we keep on adding more and more and more. So
they are not sampurna, right?
Right.
They are not
now they
just came for some reason.
Right. So they will argue that it is not sampurna avatar, it's only Ram and Krishna. These are of course a partial avatar. Okay, well that's fine. I mean that's basically, call it rationalization if you want to call it.
Hinduism માં બધું જ ચાલે એવું છે.
sometimes
લોકો લાંબા થઈને પગે લાગે એક્ટર્સ ને પોલિટિશિયન્સ ને ઇન્ડિયામાં તો બધા અવતાર જ થઈ ગયા. Think about it. I mean,
somewhere in future, like suppose say another 100-200 years, when the concept of seva is very going to be very difficult for people to digest, at that time Mother Teresa can become an avatar.
True, very possible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can argue there is no easy answer. One is one extreme, other is other extreme.
બધા કે ગાંધીજી પણ અવતાર હતા એવી રીતનું થઈ જશે થોડા વખતમાં પછી. એટલે
Anyway.
All
right. So in abstract, I mean, you can rationalize this in an abstract sense. Every life is a manifestation of divinity, but perfection is a domain of only few. So that is a Purna avatar, call it, or at least partial avatar. And we are not neither of the two.
Yeah.
Basically. So we are somehow manifestation of divinity in some form, in a fractional form, and somebody else is a higher percentage, and Ram and Krishna are 100%. If you want to call that. All right, let's move on. Okay, now these are the 3 or 4 slides that I sort of summarized Vaishnavite concept so that we can sort of understand the different components of Vaishnavism. So we talked about 5 different sects, but 3 main ones that have, significant following. And I didn't include Dvaita concept of Madhavacharya. So think about Vaishnavism versus Keval Advaita. Again, I'm going to repeat the same thing that we have talked about. One is the final authority Nirgun or final authority Sagun. Vaishnavism says Sagun, Keval Advaita says Nirgun. Second, the world and the universe that we experience, is it real or is it an illusion? Vaishnavism will say it's real, it's not an illusion. The Keval Advaita will say other way. Concept of Maya, Maya says it's an illusion, according to Shankaracharya. Vaishnavite school will say, yes, Maya means not necessarily illusion, more dependent, mithya, or manifestation or a different form of Brahman. Call it that way. Fourth one, the ultimate emancipation or salvation in Vaishnavite school is proximity to Godhead without losing your own identity. Final emancipation, according to Keval Advaita, is losing your identity and merging into Brahman and becoming one with Brahman, where you don't exist anymore. So those are basic differences. That ultimate reality from Vaishnavite point of view is either Vishnu or Krishna. And he is the person who came to world as a Krishna, the avatar, and recited the findings of Gita and Bhagavad. That's the idea. Okay. So within the concept of Vaishnavite school, there are some variations within. So these are the 3 main schools. Call it from point of view of understanding. Suddha Advaita is Vallabhacharya's concept, which is a combination of some Vaishnavite school and some part of Keval Advaita, where he says that the final authority is Lord Krishna, manifestation is partial way of looking. So if you think in terms of 2 sides of a coin, if one side is Brahman, other side is world or the universe. So it is both are essentially right. That is what Vallabhacharya will say. Okay. So he will emphasize obviously Bhagavad as the key. He will emphasize bhakti as the way to go about. He will emphasize that Krishna is the ultimate reality and he is a material and efficient cause. Krishna manufactured us from himself and he prevails within the universe itself. So he is both efficient cause of us as well as material cause of us as well, living within this world. So he is Antaryami, living in us and is beyond us, surrounding us as well as transcendental to the universe that we know. That is what he will say. So we already talked about, okay, and he mentions about types of jiva. Basically, call it class A, B, and C. Class A is like someone, Pravahi jiva, means like you and me, who go through the life cycle without emancipation and keep on being born again and again and again. As we mature and learn more, they become more sort of driven to Vedas and teachings and everything. And eventually the 3rd level will be, we learn that Lord Krishna is the ultimate reality, and eventually we become Maryada. So that will be the final way of looking at it. And the classical way of bhakti for Vallabhacharya will be Vatsalya Bhava, that means Lord Krishna as a kid. And Madhura Bhava, that means Lord Krishna is my lover, like Radha. Radha's concept is much more prevalent in Achintya Ved, the school of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But so is in our because the way Gopi ni Leela je bata raha picture jo hai na कि भाई everywhere Gopi sees Lord Krishna is there. So no matter what direction you see, Krishna is always there. And I sent you another one that you may have read, hopefully, Baba Kuhi of Siraz.
Yeah.
I sent you, there was a poem by Sufi poet, which essentially talks in the same way that Vaishnavite school talks. So he talks about everywhere I saw God I saw. I mean, he says, I went this place, God I saw. I went that place, God I saw. So essentially he keeps on saying repeatedly, everything that I do, everywhere I go, the only thing I see is God. So it is similar to what gopis experience. No matter where they go, they see Lord Krishna. So that is the concept of Vallabhacharya. આપણે ગોપી લીલા જે આપણે મતલબ પિક્ચરમાં કાયમ જોઈએ છે, that's what રાસ લીલા, right? Right. So next one. હવે આગળ જવા દો.
Rajan, before you go,
Yeah.
તમે વૈષ્ણવ ને કૃષ્ણનું કહ્યું એમાં 3 ભાગ મેઇન કયા આમાં, right? So Vallabhacharya, you just went through quite a bit, but the other 2 is, one is the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? And
The third one is right now. Third one is Ramanuja called Vishishtadvaita.
Oh, Vishnu. Okay.
So Vishishtadvaita, the dominant part is Vishnu and Lakshmi, and other part is that we are a fraction of the total. Like a sitafal hoy, so we are like a seed within the sitafal, and Lord is the sitafal.
I see. So, અને જે આપણે હમણાં વચ્ચે કર્યું ને એવું મને, એટલે I'm just for clarification I want to understand, જે વિષ્ણુના 1000 નેમ કહીએ છે એ પાછી જુદી વસ્તુ?
Basically the Vishnu manifests himself in thousands of different ways, and this is the example is 1000 names. So basically Vishnu appears to be in so many different forms. So you pick which one you connect to. Call it Ishta Devta. તમે આપણે અસ્મિતાબેન કહેતા હતા શામળાજીની વાત કરતા હતા. So Samlaji is like Ishta Devta. So we view Lord Krishna or Vishnu in the form of Samlaji.
I see. Okay.
So Vishnu manifests himself in millions of different ways, you know. So one views as Srinathji, one views as Gokulnathji, one views as Kalyanraji, one views as Samlaji, or whatever you want to believe it to be.
I see.
Call
Okay.
it Ishta Devta. That means whatever my relation is this God, who is ultimately Lord Vishnu or Krishna.
It's
તો
what
આપણે આ 1000 નેમ બોલીએ છીએ, તો that means કે આપણે બધા ભગવાનને યાદ કરી લીધા એમ?
Basically.
ભગવાનના બધા રૂપને, right?
Right. Vishnu is manifested in millions of ways. These are 1000 is the example.
Rajni, to give you an example.
ફોર્મને આપણે યાદ કરીએ.
Yeah, Dinesh bhai.
Give you an example. You are Rajni Shah, but for Asmita, you are my darling. For your children, you are dad. For your employee, you are the boss. For your boss, you are an employee. Rajni remaining the same, but all the different names around Rajni. But Rajni remains the same Rajni. My buddy, you know, and all that way. So
I think different roles. Different roles. One person plays different role.
એટલે તેને ઈષ્ટ દેવતા કહે છે ને, ઈષ્ટ તમારા ઈષ્ટ માટે તમે જે માનો એમાં.
Right. So the Ishta Devta is a manifestation of the ultimate reality in the form that I can relate to.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. So second one is Vishishtadvaita of Ramanujacharya, and the third one is this is Vallabhacharya's 3 kind of. We already talked about 3 kind of soul. So there is a Pushti soul, Maryada soul, and a Pravahika soul. So we already talked about 3 levels of souls, Jiva. Okay, so the only difference between Vallabhacharya and I mean not only one different major difference between Vallabhacharya and
Chaitanya.
no, not Chaitanya, the other one, Madhavacharya, which I did not include here, is that Madhavacharya actually believes that there are souls who are destined to go to hell.
Yeah.
They call it that there are 3 categories in our Vaishnavite school. There's a 4th category which is beyond redemption. But most of the Vaishnavite school will say, no, that's not the way it goes. So worst that you will do is keep on being born again and again. But worst that you can do in the dual Madhavacharya school is that you will fry in hell forever, like similar to Christianity. Because you cannot be redeemed.
Oh.
Simple as that. All right. Let's move on to the last 2 or 3.
આ ક્રિશ્ચિયાનિટી અને ટ્રમ્પને એમાં જવું પડશે.
Let's hope so.
રાજનને માઇક આપેલું છે ને પાછું તમે ટ્રમ્પ લાવો છો, એટલે હવે 2 કલાક. તમે યાર આ તો બહુ ખોટો ટોપિક કાઢ્યો રાજનની સામે.
All right, moksha in bhakti. So basically bhakti produces moksha by gnana, which is that I am a fraction of Lord Krishna. That's the Gnana. And Lord Krishna not only resides here in the universe, but he is also beyond the universe. So that is the form of Gnana. Maya, Vijnana is, we already talked about the concept of Maya. And bhakti, doing bhakti and enjoying the prema, Madhura Bhakti, is the ultimate way of salvation. So bliss of bhakti and seva is the way for salvation according to Vallabhacharya, according to Vaishnava school in general, but specifically Vallabhacharya. Let's move on. Okay, now Chatusloki in Pushti Marg. So this is what Smita was asking me. What is Chatusloki? Basically, Chatusloki is essentially Lord Krishna saying that I am the origin of everything, you know, and then 4 ways that you can reach. So Achintya Ved, which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, explains Chatusloki in a different way. Vallabhacharya takes different stanzas of Bhagavad and explains same thing, similar thing in a different way. So Chatusloki is acceptable to both. Achintya Ved also talks about it, and Vallabhacharya also talks about it. I'm not going to read all those 4 stanzas, but the meaning of that, it is being recited in Chatusloki. You know, if you go to YouTube, you will be able to listen to Chatusloki. There are very good recording of Chatusloki in the YouTube also by someone, which basically said, I'm praying to Lord Krishna and release me and all those kind of stuff. All right, let's move on.
Ramesh Ozanu.
Yeah, Ramesh
Ozanu એનામાં સરસ છે એનું.
અચ્છા.
But you go to, you try YouTube में Chatusloki करसो ना, so you will be able to get these stanzas that are there, very nicely sung by different people.
So it is Chatusloki is like a poem જેવું છે કે શ્લોક છે?
For him, Vallabhacharya picked the 4 sloks as the most important one. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu picked up 4, which are also for his point of view are most important one. Which basically says, take my surrender to me, more or less idea.
No.
And how do you reach me? That's what Krishna Bhagavan is teaching.
Okay.
All right, Bhakti and Pushti Marg, we already talked about in most of this stuff. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so this is the 4 stanzas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains. I am the source of all spiritual and material world. This is Lord Krishna saying in Bhagavad. You know, everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. The thoughts of my pure devotee dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. Blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Those who are constantly devoted and serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. To show them the special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroyed with the shining lamp of knowledge their darkness born of ignorance. So I will shine in their mind, heart, and destroy their ignorance, as long as they surrender to me. That is the Chatusloki of similar to Lord Krishna says in Gita. Okay. I think this may be the last one. Okay, so this is Bhagavad. So basically same stanza that I picked up from Gita are said in a different way in Bhagavad. So again, this is a little bit too long, so I'm not going to be able to read the whole thing, but essentially summarizing this. Oh, this is what Lord Krishna says to Brahma. Now remember, Shankar Bhagavan recited to Parvati what Lord Vishnu or Krishna said to Brahma. So, and Parikshit recited to, Sukadev recited to Parikshit. Okay, so this is what he says. Oh Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was